Everything changed in a matter of seconds. It's wild to think about, right? Just an alert on a phone, a headline flashing across a screen. And suddenly, literally out of nowhere, the ground beneath the entire league shifted. So what happens when the market completely shifts overnight? When a front office hundreds of miles away makes a singular, massive decision that instantly puts a ticking clock inside your own building. This isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about leverage. It is about consequence. And right now, in Indianapolis, the pressure is absolutely reaching a boiling point. Welcome to NFL Nexus. We don't just read the news here, we completely dissect the anatomy of franchise-altering decisions. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, comment below with your read on the whole situation, and if you want to truly understand the relentless, behind-the-scenes chess match of the NFL, support us by becoming a channel member today. All right, let's get right into the boardroom. Section 1. A sudden market shift. To really understand the earthquake happening in Indianapolis right now, you have to look at the epicenter all the way down in Miami. The Dolphins front office just fundamentally altered the entire financial landscape for elite running backs. They handed out a contract that sent immediate, undeniable shockwaves all the way to the desk of Colts general manager Chris Ballard. $64 million. I want you to just linger on that number for a second. That is the 4-year extension awarded to Devon Achane down in Miami. It is an astronomical figure that changes the game entirely. And you might be asking, why does Indianapolis care about what Miami does? Well, because sitting right there in the Colts locker room is Jonathan Taylor. He is entering the absolute final year of a 3-year, $42 million deal. In 2027, the man who is the very heartbeat of the Colts offense will be an unrestricted free agent. This $64 million number from Miami isn't just a benchmark anymore. It's practically a weapon in the hands of Taylor's agent. When you take a step back and place these two situations side by side, the crux of the problem for Indianapolis becomes brilliantly, maybe even painfully clear. Devon Achane just secured an annual average of $16 million based on a 2025 campaign where he tallied 1,350 rushing yards and 12 total touchdowns. And look, those are phenomenal numbers. Nobody is denying that. But look at the man on the right side of your screen, Jonathan Taylor. 1,585 rushing yards, 18 rushing touchdowns. Taylor's production doesn't just match Achane's, it eclipses it entirely. It blows it out of the water. So think about it. If a very good running back in Miami is suddenly worth $16 million a year, what on earth is the undeniable, undisputed rushing touchdown leader of the National Football League worth? The baseline has been set, the market has spoken, and Taylor has the ultimate statistical proof that he deserves a significantly higher payday. Section 2. The indispensable offensive weapon. You have to realize the Colts aren't just paying for a running back. They're paying for the entire engine of their offense. Let's dissect with absolute forensic precision exactly what makes Jonathan Taylor the most dangerous man on the Colts roster, and honestly, perhaps the entire AFC. The sheer unfathomable scale of his dominance requires deep attention. We are going to take our time here, because this isn't just a stat line. It's a documentary of violence, control, and sheer willpower. Look at this incredible 10-game stretch where the Colts started out 8-2. During those 10 games, he took 189 rushes. Now, in the modern NFL, which completely treats running backs as a disposable, rotate-by-committee position, handing the ball to one single man nearly 19 times a game is a massive anomaly. But the Colts did it because it works. It dictates the pace of the entire game. It completely exhausts defensive fronts. It breaks the physical will of opposing linebackers by the fourth quarter. And what did he do with that volume? He turned those touches into 1,139 yards and 15 rushing touchdowns. That averages out to a devastating 6.0 yards per carry. He wasn't just finding pre-existing holes, he was literally creating them. He was dictating the terms of engagement and punishing any safety who dared to step down into the box. Think about what 6 yards a carry actually means on a football field. It means every single time the quarterback turns around and hands number 28 the football on first down, the Colts are virtually guaranteed a 2nd and 4. It paralyzes defensive coordinators. You absolutely cannot play two high safeties when a man is gashing your defense like that. And it gets worse for the defense. When the fields shrink down in the red zone, where yards are hardest to come by, Taylor simply refused to be stopped. 15 rushing touchdowns in 10 games is an inevitability. It means he is practically scoring 1.5 times every single time he laces up his cleats. But wait, there's more. When the blitz came, he didn't just stay in a block. He acted as the ultimate reliable safety valve in the passing game. We are talking 30 catches for 260 receiving yards during that same exact stretch. He wasn't just a one-dimensional battering ram, he was a 3-down all-purpose nightmare for the opposition. He put a whole entire franchise on his back and carried them. And this exact dominance is what builds the surrounding offense. You know, we talk a lot about the 2025 offensive ecosystem in Indianapolis, and it was absolutely thriving. You had Daniel Jones suddenly catching fire, just going on an absolute heater. You had rookie tight end Tyler Warren breaking out and completely shocking defenses week in and week out. You had dominant, punishing, old-school play from the offensive line. You had Alec Pierce consistently beating deep coverages and taking the top off the defense. But make absolutely no mistake about it. None of this, literally none of it, happens in a vacuum. Why do you think Alec Pierce was running wide open deep down the field? Because the linebackers and the safeties were absolutely terrified of Jonathan Taylor ripping off another 6-yard run, so their eyes were trapped in the backfield. Why was Daniel Jones suddenly finding these clean, massive throwing lanes? Because the play-action fake to Taylor froze the pass rush for that critical, game-changing split second. The offensive line looked incredible because Taylor was hitting the holes with unparalleled vision and explosiveness. Taylor was the foundational powerhouse carrying the entire load. He was the sun that the rest of this offensive solar system revolved around. Even after a slight drop-off following a Week 11 bye, because, hey, the guy is human, the final body of work is just staggering to look at. He posted 1,585 rushing yards for the season. That's the second highest of his entire career. 18 rushing touchdowns. That didn't just lead the Colts, it led the entire National Football League. But honestly, perhaps the most telling statistic of all is this last one right here. 84 rushing first downs, once again leading the entire NFL. Think about what that means. 84 separate times, Jonathan Taylor took the football and reset the downs all by himself. He kept the opposing offense stranded on the sideline, sitting on the bench. He kept his own defense rested and fresh for the fourth quarter. He dictated the terms of engagement week in and week out. What makes this story so incredibly compelling is the journey it actually took to get here. Just trace this timeline with me. In 2022 and 2023, the narrative around Taylor was getting pretty dark. People genuinely thought his window was closing. He was battling injuries. The whispers started making the rounds that he was losing a step, that the brutal, unforgiving reality of the NFL running back shelf life had finally caught up to him. But then came 2024. He bounced back with an absolute vengeance. We're talking 1,431 yards, 12 touchdowns, and a Pro Bowl nod. And the craziest part, he did all of that amidst absolute total chaos at the quarterback position. He survived the turbulent transitions between Anthony Richardson Sr. and Joe Flacco, and he still produced. And then, as we just talked about, in 2025, he didn't just sustain that production, he escalated it entirely. He completely destroyed the negative narrative. He proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is bulletproof.
Section 3. Hungry for roster spots.
Now, while this multi-million-dollar chess match surrounding Taylor's contract plays out in the air-conditioned boardroom, there is a very different, much more desperate reality unfolding down in the dirt. Starting May 26th, we pivot down to the OTA practice fields. This is where the undrafted rookies arrive. No guarantees, no massive signing bonuses, just young men fighting for their absolute NFL lives, completely desperate to prove they belong on a 53-man roster. Listen to the weight of this quote from Colts linebackers coach James Bettcher regarding the youth movement in his room. Quote, "Ultimately, you look at our couple undrafted guys with Taj Chambers and West Weeks, like both of those guys are kind of cut from the same cloth." End quote. Cut from the same cloth. The Colts drafted 2 linebackers, and they brought in Chambers and Weeks as UDFAs. Outside of veteran Akeem Davis-Gaither, this room is incredibly green. It is young. So what does that mean? It means the door is not just cracked open for these 2 undrafted rookies, it is kicked wide open. Their engagement in the meeting room, their hunger on the practice field, it is exactly what Bettcher is looking for to build the foundation of his special teams and fill out that depth chart. Section 4. Under the radar threats. And that naturally brings us to the hidden gems, the under-the-radar threats buried at the very bottom of the 90-man roster who are currently plotting a hostile takeover. These are the players who could actually become Sunday difference makers if they can manage to survive the brutal gauntlet of the NFL summer. Let's meticulously break down this remaining UDFA battlefield, because these names really matter. Start with running back Anderson Castle. He came into rookie minicamp on a simple tryout. He literally had 2 days to prove he was better than the guy the Colts had already signed. And you know what? He did. He unseated Jordan Vaughn, completely taking his job in a matter of 48 hours. That is the ruthless, cutthroat nature of this business. Then you have running back Lincoln Paré. Look at the trend Chris Ballard has firmly established here. In 2025, they draft DJ Giddens. In 2026, they draft Seth McGuan. What do those 2 guys have in common? They are big, physical, bruising backs. Paré fits that exact relentless, violent mold. He isn't here to be a change of pace, scat back. He is here to run straight through a brick wall and dare the coaching staff to cut him. And then you look down into the trenches, where games are truly won and lost in this league. Look at offensive tackle Nolan Rucci. 6'8", over 300 pounds. Just picture that massive, incredibly intimidating frame blocking out the sun on the edge of the line. Tony Sparano Jr., the Colts offensive line coach, has a very, very specific vision for his unit. He wants absolute maulers. He wants giants out there. Now, OTAs are non-contact, which makes it incredibly difficult for an offensive lineman to actually shine. This period right now is a critical, microscopic audition for Rucci. Can he move his feet well enough? Can he process the stunt from the defensive line? If he can prove his mind as sharp as his frame is massive, he fits the exact specific mold Chris Ballard covets.
Finally, we have to look at the micro battles filling the final gaps on this roster. The defensive depth is relatively sound right now, but that doesn't mean the war is over. You've got Cam Ball on the defensive interior and Austin Brown at safety. Now, they aren't fighting for a starting job right now, let's be real. They are fighting a desperate, incredibly specific battle for utility roles. Cam Ball is trying to prove he is immovable enough to anchor the interior of the practice squad. Austin Brown is trying to show he can be a violent, heat-seeking missile on kickoff coverage to force his way onto the 53-man roster as a pure special team standout. Every single rep out there is life or death for their careers.
Section 5. The Colts' Final Countdown. All right, let's bring this whole narrative full circle. Let's zoom out from the dirt and the sweat of the OTA practice fields and look back at the overarching franchise-altering stakes hanging over the entire city of Indianapolis. The undrafted rookies are fighting for their present, but the front office, they are fighting for the future of the franchise. And that future hinges on one man. Say it with absolute, unwavering conviction. There hasn't been a running back in Indianapolis as good as Jonathan Taylor since the days of Edgerrin James. That is not hyperbole, that is historical fact. He is the absolute lifeblood of this current era of Colts football. If this franchise has any intention of actually meeting their Super Bowl expectations, if they have any intention whatsoever of surviving the absolute gauntlet that is the AFC, securing him on a new deal is not just an option. It is the only real path forward. So, you really have to ask yourself, as the market completely explodes down in Miami, as the price tag seemingly rises every single day, do the Colts really want to risk him hitting free agency next year? Do they really want to let the absolute most dangerous weapon in their offensive arsenal walk into a room to negotiate with 31 other teams? The tension is entirely unresolved right now, and the clock is officially ticking. The decisions made in the coming months will absolutely define this franchise for the next decade. Make sure you are right here for every single second of it. Subscribe to NFL Nexus right now. Like this explainer, I really want to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Do the Colts pay Taylor right now, or do they play a highly dangerous game of chicken? Let me know what you think. And to support our deep dives into the trenches of this league, become a channel member today. We'll see you next time.